and able to get his And welcome in, everybody, to tonight's coverage here on Maconi Entertainment of race number 31 of the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series here. We're at Talladega for the 31st race. You just saw a little bit of last week's racing action at Las Vegas. Had a slight technical issue during that show. We do apologize for that, but that right there was a battle of nerves between Lucas Hoysma and Tommy Gossett coming to the end of that race. Tommy Gossett walking away with the win, getting his first ever win here in the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series, at least here in 2025. We're here at Talladega for the 31st race of this season, and the second race, I should say, of the round of 8. Here's how the championship point standings look following that race at Las Vegas 1 week ago. After a falling anvil from Bryson Exum on a pretty darn good drive from Adam Benefiel, he currently sits 55 points above that playoff cutoff line right now. Bryson Exum slotted down in P2, still 46 above it. Lucas Hoytsma with a pretty darn good drive last time, nearly winning that race at Las Vegas. He enters this race P3 in the points as it stands presently, 11 above that cut line. Eric Wineland, the last driver, in only 4 points above that cut line. Then you look on the southern end of it. Joseph McWhorter slotted in P5, 4 below the cutoff line. Our Maconi Entertainment colleague Kirk Mills slotted in 6th, Hunter Truex in 7th. Charles Velasquez Jr., who was not present last time at Las Vegas, enters in 8th, 30 points below that cutoff line. But with all the playoffs and all the drama from last week all taken care of, and that O'Reilly signed just in the middle of the infield for some inexplicable reason, shout out to next season, where I guess we're going to be going under a different name here in the FNL. But let's take a look at tonight's starting grid for this race at Talladega. Go through the starters, let you know who's going to be up at the front here with some nice Halloween-y looking paint schemes here out there on the racetrack. Very fitting, even though our season finale is actually going to be on Halloween a little bit later on this year at Phoenix. We'll get that starting grid loaded up for you in just a couple of moments. Charles Velasquez Jr., I believe, is going to be our pole sitter here in this race. We'll get that graphic up in just a few moments' time for you all here this evening. Gives us a slight time to have a calm before the storm of tonight's race. And there you can see, starting from the second row, will be Bryson Exum alongside Mason Lowry slotted in 4th. Looking right behind on your third row, it's going to be Joseph McWhorter and Raymond Root in P5 and P6. Looking right behind on row number 8 is going to be Connery Cunningham and Eric Wineland. One driver looking to give himself a nice little cushion in that playoff discussion. Nick Stein will start this race in 9th. Blake Kluot will round out your top 10. Looking right behind, we've got ourselves the P11 and 12 starters of Kyle Amon and Matthew Boston Wheeler. Looking right behind them on row number 7 will be Michael Deach and Hunter Truex. P15 and P16 will be Jim Shoefield and Noah Woods, respectively. And then looking right behind on row number 9 will be Tanner Marty and Cliff Mullins. Rounding out our top 20 for tonight's race is going to be Andrew Dyson, starting alongside the Spring Talladega race winner of Lucas Hoysma. Certainly a favorite here tonight. P21 will be Eddie Rose. P22 will be Bryce Reiner. Starting in 23rd and 24th will be Kirk Mills and Tim Phillips. Looking right behind them, we have got Alex Princeton and Jason S. Taylor. Race control here in the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series. Daniel Llewellyn alongside Dave Hoytsma will comprise row number 14. Steve Benjamin, Cody Bird start this race in 29th and 30th. Brian Workman and Rory Collins will start in 31st and 32nd. And then that will round out our grid. And finally, we can bring in my colleague here tonight, working the comms and the cams, Howie. Welcome into the booth. It is going to be a pretty interesting night this evening at Talladega.
Indeed, and what a bit of a maelstrom of technical issues I gave you last night and today, so you're going to have to accept my formal apologies, but we're all in one piece to make it around Talladega. Stage racing obviously changes the way this track plays quite a bit. I think it's going to be quite a tame one until all of a sudden it blows up quite a bit later, so I would keep an eye out, I think, for drivers dealing with these quite squirrely cars on the super speedway format, of course. 94 laps, we're doing stages at 25 and 50 with 3 tyre changes. Although that's not going to be a huge limiting factor. I think drivers are getting ready for green right now. Ain't that just on time?
Yeah, perfect on time here. True professionalism here on Maconi Entertainment. But let's get this night of racing action up and rolling. Only going to be 2 more races after this one here tonight. But they've got a long one here this evening as the green flag is at. The drivers are on their way. We're racing here at Talladega in the fall. That's a pretty even keel start for everybody. Let's see who's going to be able to pull out in front of who. Talladega always going to be a race of strategy. Not having to worry about the tires, but certainly having to worry about who's going to be able to get the job done and who's going to be able to pounce win. But Charles Velasquez Jr., after missing out on the last race in Las Vegas, looking to hit the ground running here this evening.
Going to be too wide for a while, but this track, we know it has space for all 3. And eventually people are going to make that happen. Of course, in these first stages, a lot of the games about efficiency. It's all about just getting around that track in one piece, keeping the car safe, and sort of working out who you can run with before we're going to make a big run to the line near the end. So expecting intensity to sort of increase after these first 2 stages, but we'll start out by sort of sizing out the field here, I think.
Yeah, really, I think at this point of one of these Talladega races, all these drivers just looking to run around the track, make sure their cars aren't going to explode as soon as they get to full throttle, and just be there at the very end. That's what matters. But looking through this field, we've got some very interesting storylines to touch on. Andrew Dyson, interesting to see him here on the racetrack. Dyson actually won a little bit earlier on this season at, well, no, I must say, it's a rather different racetrack than this here at Talladega. It was the second to last race of the regular season at Portland that Andrew Dyson won. Usual driver in the FLCC. Nice to see him occasionally pop down here to the Xfinity Series, and currently running in P18 as it stands at the end of the second lap.
Yeah, a bit weird to be a road course ringer and then be a super speedway ringer. Maybe you're trying to get some practice in for the Cup round later this weekend, obviously. But these cars are very, very different on the super speedways. The Cup cars are sort of designed to get shunted around, but these cars, you give them too much of a push and they get squirrely and they start overheating very, very easily. You will obviously see some of that. Drivers get desperate, but they don't really like taking them head on very much.
And one thing that we're hoping not to have is some head-on collisions here tonight. I feel like you'd have to be taking Tony Stewart's advice of driving around this place backwards, well, actually splitting the field in half. Half can go one way, half can go the opposite way. I don't think we would be able to have that here tonight, but either way, still in the early stages of this race here at Talladega. Charles Velasquez Jr. currently leading that bottom line. Bryson Extenball slotted in P2 just from the quarter, rounding out your top 3 composed entirely of playoff racers. Eric Wineland in that number 87 car with he's had a good run in these playoffs, it must be said. Won at Bristol, and even though he did get struck by some falling anvils throughout the rest of the round of 12, he had already punched his ticket into the round of 8 beforehand. So that drafty car looking to be a good drafty car here at Talladega as he looks to vault himself into the championship 4 and be the first of the drivers in the round of 8 to actually punch their ticket into the championship 4.
What's very interesting is last week was very much talked about as the track you really, really, really want to win and get yourself in, because we have 2 oddballs coming up down the road. And then what happened? The win got stolen by a non-playoff driver who showed up. It was a spectacular driver, but obviously that really complicates things for the rest, because now there's just no reliable way to get your win and you're in. I mean, yeah, you can win at Talladega, you can win at Martinsville, but like, do you want to win at either of those tracks? You certainly don't want to count on that being your way in. And but a driver like Velasquez Jr., who is sitting right here at the bottom after missing last week's race, I shouldn't be saying much about where someone is on lap 5 of a 94-lap super speedway race, but it helps to be near the front. We're going to see the pit stop cycles, and we're hopefully going to get to see one green pit stop cycle later on in the race, which is always the most exciting part of these. But for now, I bet there's a little bit of fuel saving in play. Drivers just trying to get jumps in the pit lane. I do see that third lane just sort of showing up already.
Yeah, the third lane, I'm trying to think of the best way I could describe it. It's basically like, it's the idea of sleep for somebody with insomnia. It pops up from time to time, but it's usually not going to materialize into much. So already seeing the first attempt at a top lane, that's Lucas Hoitzman in that number 97 car. Now, Hoitzman did himself a heck of a lot of favors last time out at Las Vegas. You brought up a good point there, Howie, in terms of the dynamic of everybody wanting to win at Las Vegas. Kind of made that race a bit on the hectic end. But Hoitzma did everything that he needed to do an okay points cushion entering this race. Now, granted, if he gets struck by a falling anvil here at Talladega and has a grandfather clock land on him, just walking past victory lane on the way to the infield care center, it's not going to be a recipe for winning for Lucas Hoitzma, but did everything that he needed to do with that race at Las Vegas last time out. We talked about it right at the start of the show. Hoitzma won at Talladega a little bit earlier on this year, so keep an eye on Hoitzma to maybe impress here in this second race of the round of 8.
I mean, to win, Talladega's in a row 42, being sent onto a 4th lane there up on the top. God, I'm trying to have a coherent thought. And Lucas Hoitzma there just sort of punts that car up a lane and almost wrecks the field, but he's made it out alive, now left on his own. Okay, dial it back. Being able to win 2 Talladega races in a row in a season, it's not really a common achievement, is it? People will call these races a little bit lucky, and they're not entirely luck-based, but certainly you have to be in the right place at the right time at the end of it all, and we're going to be here for a long time to make it to that conclusion. I think that would be, and obviously we had that full Daytona. That was won by someone outside of the playoff system entirely as well. We weren't here for the original Daytona race, so, but you might have the data on that somewhere. It'd be interesting to see a double super speedway winner. It really would.
I actually have a list of all the race winners that we have thus far this season. I don't know if we find ourselves in a slight bit of lull in the action here tonight, then I'd probably just go through that entire list. But looking through, had a smorgasbord of different winners thus far this season on the plate tracks. First race of the season at Daytona was won by Daniel Llewellyn in that 07 car. The race shortly thereafter, Atlanta, was won by Ryan Strunk. A lot of racers, should be noted, have won only one race and either just haven't appeared since or have occasionally shown up but haven't been able to return into victory lane. Then you look Talladega, the 3rd plate race of the season, was won by Lucas Hoitzma. Atlanta shortly thereafter was won by Austin Evie for the 2nd Atlanta race. The summer Daytona race was actually won by Lars Chenoweth, and then of course you look a little bit farther along, we got Talladega, the final plate race here tonight. So we have had some rather off-the-wall plate race winners. We haven't really had any. I mean, I'm looking through that at the. I think the only playoff racer that we've had thus far this season who won on a plate track was Daniel Llewellyn, and Llewellyn's not in the playoffs anymore. He got bounced out around 12. So it's been, despite the fact that these racers have been usually keeping these plate races rather tame, has been a little bit hectic in terms of who's actually getting the job done.
I can look at the standings. Obviously, playoff drivers with the white numbers. There's no more elegant way to do that. Trust me, I've got the buttons. Let me tell you that. So, I mean, there's a lot of playoff drivers all clumped up near the top. Kirk Mills really struggling near the back. But some interesting, what are the storylines here already? Charles Velasquez Jr., he's down and out in these playoffs unless you get to win. It's as simple as that, unless just something miraculous or horrible things happen to others. Bryson Hickson-Bar pretty much locked in, but we always talk about him having a disappointing playoff run and about him basically coasting on his points so far. He's in the chance for a good finish. He won't need it, but it might help the storylines and the timelines. Then McQuarter and Wineland, the other way around. McQuarter, a decent finish probably puts him above cut, but who's on the other side of that cut? It's Eric Wineland. So, you don't actually really gain much on that line. So that's 4 drivers that all want it for their own reasons, and then there's anyone else that could just come in and steal the show, because the shows often get stolen here. And when you get your first show stolen, you get your first chance to win a playoff round stolen, you do what you're doing at Martinsville. I'm going to have trauma from Martinsville. I've got somewhere to be the Saturday after the Martinsville, and I'm producing that show anyway. Feel for me,
I remember the spring FLCC Martinsville race, and Ooh. Raymond Roots is currently leading the top side as we see him heading off down into turns number 1 and 2. Charles Velasco Jr. still leading the bottom lane. Things rather settling off into a groove as it stands at the current moment here tonight. Do want to raise, though, we've got some interesting looking teams out there on the racetrack as we get closer and closer to Halloween season. I mean, we're at the point now where Halloween literally 2 weeks away, which be the same night as the season finale here at Phoenix, and you'll be able to catch all of the action, of course, here on Maconi Entertainment for that broadcast in 2 weeks' time. But in the meantime, we've got this race at Talladega to worry about. I do want to touch, actually, we're a little over the other first half of this first stage being completed. Stage break's going to fall as such here tonight. Of course, 94 laps of racing action, I should say. The stage breaks coming in at lap number 25. Lap number 50, of course, we're running all the way through to the very end. Interestingly, though, from the schedule graphic, it says that we're running for 113 laps here tonight, but we are running for 94.
I think the post that came here about it beforehand they must have cut that. Did they do that in real life? You're going to send me down on like a Wikipedia rabbit hole now as you deal with this, because I know they like to match the real series very, very often, including the addition of stages, which I don't like most of the time, but I think are especially sort of messed up on these super speedway races, to be totally honest, because they do mean that you pretty much only play for the final stage. You do pretty much play for efficiency on the rest of it. I mean, although I do think drivers aren't running at comical speeds around here, though. I'll give them that. We're not quite getting sort of the embarrassing excesses. I think we're already getting a few pushes too. Here's Hixenbar on Velasquez Jr. That bottom line holding up quite well so far, but you know the deal around these tracks. It's not to do with conditions. It's to do with the other people on the track, and it's to do with how their dynamics settle out. Right now, bottom's been disciplined, but maybe in a stage all about discipline, that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, I feel like you have to be very disciplined as a driver to do well in one of these plate races. Just have to stick with it from the green all the way through to the end. Set yourself up well for the final stage in this certain race here. That's pretty much what you got to do, frankly. It's going to be a very tough road for these competitors if they run into any sort of difficulties here in the first stage. As we see right there, that was Logan Nosman diving once again to that top side, trying to break away from that, maybe get a little bit of fresh air into the radiator of that car. I said this a few moments ago, I'll say it once again. The third lane, it can work here in these races if you have enough drivers playing scab. But the problem is, there's not a lot of racers that want to stab each other in the back. So the third lane, it's basically, I could best describe it as not even being a third lane. It's a second and a half lane, really.
It'll start becoming big a whole lot later, but I think drivers have to really feel themselves out. It's a very respectful league with a bunch of very, very good drivers, of course. And there are some leagues that neither of us are going to name names, but some leagues in our careers that we come up to and we dread because we think, oh man, this is going to be a race where we do nothing but wreck badly. I never, ever, ever feel that way about the Full Cut Challenge cohort, including these guys. But sometimes funny things can still happen on the track, obviously. You sent me down the Wikipedia rabbit hole, by the way. So it's actually a very, very recent race, the full race at Talladega. Only really came around in 2020 for the Xfinity Series. It was 113 laps in 2022, not run in 2023. It was then 98 in 2024. So how many laps actually? And that might have been with an extension, though. That could have been with green and white checkers, if that's sort of how many they ran. Basically, what I'm saying is I think we're in the ballpark with the right lap number here on the track today.
Yeah, I'm actually looking through. I believe the information may have actually been mirrored in from the other spring Talladega race, which is usually a little bit longer. That was 300 miles back in the spring on April 25th here on Maconi Entertainment, and just same information carried over. It is actually 94 laps. So looks like that third lane has actually kept a bit of momentum rolling. It got the 87 and the 97 with vaguely similar looking race cars, vaguely similar looking numbers. That's not going to be confusing, not at all, not one bit. Yippee-ki-yay. Let's see if that top side, though, currently 4 cars strong, will have anybody else join them, or whether or not that middle lane, as it is presently, is going to actually break up and try and form with that top side, because you can see they don't have a lot of momentum going themselves either. That's currently being led by Connery Cunningham in that number 78 car. I think it's a Dale Earnhardt throwback back when he ran the gold Bass Pro Shops paint scheme at the All-Star race many moons ago. I think that may be it. That or I'm just massively overcomplicating things, which I often do.
Gonna make me look it up now again. Yeah, that definitely is the Dale paint. We're just with his own sponsor's Precision on the side instead, but that's definitely the All-Star Dale paint. That middle's working well, and I think that top lane's now getting serious, although they do need to get a little bit into line. I think now, like, it's near the end of the stage. It sort of makes sense that we're going to just start throwing it free, and a bit of a shoulder check there onto Hoytsma a few rows back. He's just about held on. The car underneath him is not really holding to the middle of that lane properly. I'm talking, that's the 19 car of Alex Princeton. Twice now in the turns, it's sort of like come up in the corners, and it's sort of bumped him in the side. To see if he does it to the 62 now. Yeah, I really don't want to be running on the top lane next to that car right now, and it also isn't helping for pace. But up front, we could end up getting free ride across the line. Velasquez Jr. is leading this first stage, but there is intensity starting to bubble up here.
Yeah, you can tell that there's tension growing in this field. They're going for some more aggressive moves. That third lane has now fully materialized as the bottom and middle lanes now actually breaking up in terms of momentum. The top 3 really breaking away from that, as that's not going to help out their case one bit. Chasing up the track big time right behind the number 87 of Eric Wendland. That was a 4 of Blake Kluot having to chase his own tail, trying to avoid ending up on the walls. He got a pretty big bump from Lucas Hoytsma running right behind him. And I gotta wonder if anybody else is going to join that top side. It's feeling all right for those top 2 lanes. The bottom lane, though, which has been dominant thus far in this race, probably feeling the most amount of pressure now that they ever really have, frankly.
Op's now slow, middle's now pretty serious. It's that 59 and Nick Stein that is really going to try and shove Connor E. Cunningham, and it could end up going to the line if that intensity stays up. They're moving again up top. That 87 and Wineland, maybe, like, even if you're not quite looking for a stage win, you definitely want to feel out what it's like to run up there. If you feel like, hey, this is sort of my destiny later on in the race. It's building, though. That intensity is building from behind. That's the 4 of Blake Kluot doing the pushing, and now that's pretty fast. Now, this finish is pretty much anyone's game. All 3 rows now very much pushing their way up. Top slow again from the 87. They seem to be very inconsistent, just sort of like up and down and on and off here. 64 has been very consistent. Velasquez Jr. could end up taking this over the line, but the number of laps starting to run down and down in time. Of course, that start-finish line quite a bit further down the triover when it does lead to some wacky finishes around there. Yet again, fall off from the top. They're going back and forth.
As we see that top side losing out on a decent amount of momentum. I was saying, unfortunately, into dead air, because I realized shortly thereafter that my microphone was muted. Get closer and closer to the end of the stage. The importance of these stage points really do matter for a handful of reasons. Not only it being the round of 8 for the playoff racers, the margins are so unbelievably tight when it comes to points that getting any small little bit, whether it be the 10 stage, the 10 points for a win, it means a stage win. That is, it means a heck of a lot. So we're going to see these racers maybe get a bit more physical come time for the very end of this stage. But also, as well, if you do end up running into difficulties between now and the end, being able to walk away from this race and say, you know what, it wasn't a completely meaningless line. I got some good stage points. That's what matters to me at the end of the day. That is going to help you out a whole lot, as well as we just saw Eric Wineland jump to the high side. He was briefly in what we can most certainly call the middle lane, just trying to get a bit of a draft, trying to build up some momentum, and pulled out once again, and he's currently slotted P9. So look at Wineland to lead that high side to their ultimate destiny. You can just see the front bumper of that car peeking out slightly, as we now have a little bit under 2 laps left to go in this first stage.
It's okay, Rod. I make that mistake all of the time with my mute switch, at least twice a show, and I only find out when the other guy starts talking over me and I realise what's happened. So it's nice to be in the position of power for once. This is dead even between these 2 rows. Now that's a new push, and Matthew Boston Wheeler on the top. He's going to have to do some serious work. You do get more momentum through the straights. One more lap around, but look at how far down this start-finish straight is. A great way to sell more tickets, I hear, if you're planning on building a track anytime soon. Now that's white flag on the stage. They're going to not... So the warning drivers not slow down immediately on the stage. 87 needs a little more, and I don't think that line is totally in order. Between the 2 here, I think it is going to be a dash, and it's all going to depend on that drive behind. But I would want Hixenbaugh.
Yeah, Bryson Exaball, I mean, the man has 7 wins thus far this season for a very, very good reason. So keep an eye on him to maybe impress here in this stage. Is he going to push Charles Velasquez Jr. to the stage win? Or is he going to maybe lay back? Let's just see as they come to the tri-oval for the final time here. Will it be Velasquez? Will it be Cunningham? That top side not gaining a lot of momentum. The middle lane is going to draw alongside as they get to the line. Now, Charles Velasquez Jr., I think, just barely got the nose out at the end of it. Connery Cunningham came oh so close, though, at the end of it to get that win. It was close, though, for the stage.
I genuinely still thought Connery Cunningham took that. Like, I'm going to have to watch this again and just be amazed. Just be in absolute awe if he actually did that. Went super high. The transponder's in the middle, and iRacing says Velasquez Jr. is ahead on the line. So it doesn't even look like it to me, quite frankly. But you can't lie with facts like that. Velasquez Jr. made the middle work across the line at the end of the first stage. Cunningham in second over Hixenbaugh, Stein, McWhorter, Root, Amon, Princeton, Deach, and Wineland. Those are your stage points, although, as you know, those stage finishes can just jump between anyone. Fairly clean one the first time around. Do you think we can do it again for the second?
Oh, now that is a very good question that you raised there. Here's how I'll put it. If you ever tune into, we'll just say, the All-Star race, for instance, or even the Clash for that matter, when they have the heat races, which, I mean, basically on a plate track, it's basically tiny little heat races that you got going on, unless if you crash, then you're done for the rest of the day. Pretty much what you've got here are 2 heat races, and usually when you see that, one of the races is going to be totally smooth, totally fine. The other is going to be pure pandemonium. We saw stage 1 be rather smooth, rather clean. Those racers kept it calm, cool, and collected. Stage 2, on the other hand, if that logic from me is to go by, we could probably see a driver. I mean, this track was built on an old military air base where they used to fly planes out of it, so who knows? Maybe we're going to see a car do an aerobatics demonstration, shall we say. I nearly said aerobatics experimentation there. That would go down on a different kind of military base, and probably one in the form of Area 51, but no, I think the point remains. We may get a bit more hectic here in the second stage.
I wonder if the desperation is not going to kick in until the third one, really. First scheduled pit stops are about to head underway. Ever think about how much of your life a Talladega pit stop, Talladega yellow takes out of you, by the way? We're going to be at Martinsville next week. Well, yes, we're going to experience 20,000 yellows, but at least I can tell you they'll end quickly. Here comes the whole pack looking for fuel. Brian Wortman's a lap down. I don't know if there was a penalty or a late start in that. We did see him sort of get lapped by the field, but that's not going to happen in usual racing condition. He'll get that back and be able to join the back of the field. Here comes every driver. probably just fuel, given the tyre wear on this track. Velasquez Jr. misses the pit box.
That is going to be big for Charles Velasquez Jr. May not be the biggest mistake in the world, but can hurt you out a decent amount as he is up and rolling very, very quickly. Is able to jump in front of everybody. Connery Cunningham going to be slotted in P2. Bryson Hixenball now going to be in third as we're about to get this restart here in the not too far off future. 28 laps into this race already as we take a look at the replay to see Connery Cunningham really gunning it on pit entry, able to get up and rolling. Was there a shoe that I was missing drop here?
I'm trying to work out whether drivers took tyres, and I don't think so. What's happened is Velasquez Jr. has put in way less fuel. He has to have. He spent 7.8 seconds in the box. Everyone else spent around 11, 12. And I was thinking, did someone put on tyres? And he didn't. And that wasn't
That's exactly what I was thinking.
No, exactly he must have just either done some just crazy saving, or thinks he's going to do saving now, or just thinks his maths is better than everyone else. I mean, the fuel maths do matter quite a lot around here, especially if you're going to miss your box. But that's a meaningful gap, and that sort of made up for all that time plus 4. There's your pit times on the tower, and no one took any tyres as I expected, and yet there's still big gaps in there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking with Charles Velasquez Jr. I was thinking, okay, is he, like, it had to have been a shorter stop. It must be. So will Charles Velasquez Jr. maybe sacrifice this this upcoming stage just to slip back in tow and try and just save up as much fuel as possible? It's an interesting question that we will try and answer between now and the end of this second stage. Of course, stage breaks coming on the 25, so we are going to be running this second stage all the way through to the end of lap 50. Already saw stage 1 in our rear view mirror. Charles Velasquez Jr. top of the board in that first stage, but as we see him come across the line, starting to pack up and pair up with the lights out on the pace car, Velasquez going to have a pretty tough road ahead of him, I feel, here in this stage coming up.
I think we're going to see a bit more of the same. You don't really know if you're leading whether you can finish across the line, but if it stays green, you know you'll finish in somewhere that's hopefully in a pretty good territory. Velasquez Jr. is going to need more than just stage points, though, with this many playoff drivers on his tail if he wants to make it to the next round, because, you know, he's down something like 40 on the cut line, so, you know, you're not just going to get the 1 or 2 points you get over others. You're going to need to come home with a win here today. And so everything here is already prepped for that final moment. It's just prep for that checkered flag. Obviously, this stage is going to be shorter than the first one by about 5 laps, really, because we'll be ending it on 50, and we're running a lot of these under endless yellow. So that might change the way drivers run here a bit.
Yeah, that is a good point that you raised. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a moving of the goalpost, more so a bigger ball to kick, if that makes sense. Well, that right there, folks, was me trying to break out some soccer. I guess it'd be football terminology, since we're one-to-one in terms of Brits to Americans here on this show. See, I call it soccer because I don't like to acknowledge soccer's existence, just because of the fact that we've got the Philadelphia Union, which I think they're okay in MLS. See, one of my buddies is like good and knowledgeable about soccer. I know 3 sports. It's racing, curling, and then baseball. That's just about it. Even football I'm a little bit questionable about when it comes to knowledge. But anyways, before we get too lost off in the soccer discussion, let's get back to this race here. Charles Velasquez Jr. and Connery Cunningham going to be your front row as we get this race back up and rolling and get stage 2 up and rolling here tonight, Talladega, as the green flag is out and we are back racing here. And that right there was a pretty big dive off into the infields. They're wrecking behind. Big stack up in the back. I think Jim Shoefield may have gone away with one there, but certainly Steve Benjamin and Blake Kluot got involved in the drama, and we are back under yellow.
Yeah, that's a restart and a half. Let's see if we can work out and unpack what happened here. This is a perspective from the woods, and it happens a little bit ahead. The 75 car of Charles Eaton. One of those I think is one of the real starts. This must have just been someone missing and miscalculating that start. No fast repair here, so if you take fatal damage, you're done. Oh, it's way, way further up. Which car is that? Is it Alex Princeton? Let's get the chopper cam out and find out. I know that blimp seems to keep getting covered up, so doing my best out here. Alex Princeton in the 19, I think, is the car. I mean, the checkup starts even further ahead of him, but he's sort of the first one that starts at a place that I'm not even going to be able to identify and work out. But what really happens is that Charles Eaton is the one that takes a big brunt of this from behind.
Right before I saw those drivers spinning and wrecking in the back, a shot as we swapped the camera angles down into turn number 1 and 2. I was going to note the fact that we saw Joseph McWhorter dive down onto the infield. I think the stacking up may have just started all the way up at the front, potentially Hickson Ball having a slight miscue right behind Charles Velasquez Jr. That could have been it. If it started anywhere, it started within the first few rows as let's take a look and see the gap. I think that was Charles Velasquez Jr. just kind of caught napping at the lights, caused that stack up. Basically, a case of Newton's. It's a Newton's cradle situation. They had their way down in there. One metal ball whacks into another, which whacks into another, and bing, 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 there they go around and up into the air. Pretty big impact there. Look at the 75 car. The rear end of that car is probably about 4 feet in the air as he headed his way off through there. But either way you slice it, the yellow's back out. You can see Matthew Boston Wheeler down in pit lane in the 06 car. More drivers coming down pit lane. And I just see in the corner of my eye, was that your race leader of... Yes, it was Charles Velasquez Jr. coming down pit lane. Quick little splash and dash for him. And tires. That's not going to help his case.
This is really interesting. I think maybe... well, the tyres, if you think about it, you make a stop now, you're going to the back of the field. There's nothing you can do to stop that. You're not beating the field. So it makes sense maybe to put on the fresher tyres and see how that beats you out in the long run. But yeah, he did underfuel the car. So maybe now he's just sort of realising... Although if he wasn't going to make it... Oh, I've got it. It's not some big play about not making it. This is about setting yourself up for the final stage. Sit in the back for this one. If you survive, then now you have this tiny, a different fuel strategy than the rest of the drivers that might help you out when the whole field comes to stop together. Connery Cunningham inherits the lead.
See, I'm wondering if that will set him up well for the final stage. I mean, we've got about 62 laps of racing action left here at Talladega tonight. Will that be able to bring him all the way through to the end? With the tires on that car, I mean, when you think of Talladega, unless you're talking about the first ever Cup race here back in 1969, which I Slap Shoes made a video about that years ago. That was my jam back in middle school. I love that video so much, still do for that matter. But ever since then, once they figured out the speed of these cars, tires haven't really been too much of an issue at Talladega since probably about 1982. So not gonna have to worry about that. It's just a matter of the fuel come time for the end of this race, because if you're not having the best of grip and you're running green, that's fine. If you've got a restart to worry about, then it may be a little bit of a wrench thrown in the works, but I would rather have less grip and more fuel than more grip and less fuel here.
I think the play is now Velasquez Jr. can make, everybody's going to dive into the pit lane end of this stage, and Velasquez Jr. is going to have another short stop, and this time actually be able to fill up to full on that stop and have less to put in the car. Hopefully he beats the field out one more time, and then he leads where it really matters at the very end. So I think that's the play for drivers that decide to make those pit stops. They're going to join the field. A few trying to make it around. That's Noah Woods near the back. That's Charles Velasquez Jr., who, by the way, I think I might have fixed the longest bug in the world. I'm amazed he hasn't bothered me about this. Not yet. Listen, one day I'll make that say Charles Velasquez Jr. instead of Charles Jr. Velasquez, and he's going to love me for it. I thought I solved it today, but actually, give me a second. I'm gonna make someone stay here. But yeah, I think he's got a strategy here, and it makes sense to try and do something different, to try and jump that field on the restart. Yeah,
I was gonna break out the harmonica and sing a nice little like, I don't know, the old Irish fight song or something like that, as you're trying to get the graphics back up and rolling, dance a jig on camera or something like that. That'd be nothing would drive this audience away quicker. I can tell you that much here on Maconi Entertainment. It's all of you tuning into this broadcast. Hope you are enjoying tonight's action. Bit more on the laid back end. These Xfinity cars, it's usually where chaos breaks at, but here in the FLC, the drivers very respectful of each other, far more respectful than they are in real life, frankly. So you're not going to see everybody out trying to, frankly, kill each other for 94 laps. So that's part of the reason why we like to have a good time here on these Talladega broadcasts. Kick back our feet, relax, have a good time here as getting to the end of this season. Only 2 races left to go once we're said and done, and getting into the fall as well here in the Northern Hemisphere. I know up here in the Philadelphia region, all the leaves are starting to turn brown. It's looking prettier and prettier as time goes along, and all my neighbors are putting up the Halloween decorations, which to celebrate Halloween, but we've got a booked day of racing action on Maconi Entertainment for what will be a very spooky evening, at least from my perspective with the schedule. But anyways, we've got ourselves the second restart of the night to worry about, the second one here in this stage. We talked about this second stage maybe being a little bit chaotic after that stack up on the first restart. Let's see how restart number 2 goes as we're back up and racing. Connery Cunningham pulling away almost immediately. Raymond Root and Nick Stein completing a top 3 composed entirely of non-playoff racers. A little bit fascinating to see that here in the second race of the round of 8.
What happened to that top row? Where have they all gone? That might reform. Bit of a huge jump up there from one of those cars in line. Bright pink machine there, just absolutely diving up, and a few cars have a bit of a janky bump on their ears. That's a 79 of Dave Hoitzma that made the jump up. A few of these cars are a little bit bumped on the rear. Might affect your aero performance around here. Up front, top 2, Root and Stein go down together. Top lane's back in form now, and we're already making some quite dramatic moves. This is really a 10-lap showdown. No, it's not. It's 15. I mean, numbers are hard. It's about a 15-lap showdown, okay?
Yeah, we've got a 15-lap showdown here in the 16,000th race here in the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series season here in 20. I should have said 25-20. Dang, I missed an opportunity there. Raymond Root leading that bottom lane there. Top side. I'll call it the top side. It's Kirk Mills leading that third lane, which is trying to gain any form of momentum a little bit farther in the back of the pack compared to the rest of the field. Meanwhile, closer towards the front, Joseph McWhorter, currently the leader of the top side if you just looked at the top half of the field. But look at Andrew Dyson in that number 41 car. He is right there, and we were thinking about him maybe being an interesting driver to keep tabs on, the normal road course ringer here at a plate race, but all darn good driver as it stands at the moment.
Some surprises out here on the field, but McWhorter's been pretty consistently near the top. Yeah, we've had a lot more breakaway from playoff drivers since that wreck. Now we have drivers like Dyson and that quite beautiful looking Andy's Ice Cream 41. Now Kurt Mills is running that entirely solo up there, which I don't think is going to hold, but it really sucks when you take a lane, no one wants to join you, and then no one lets you back in, and you're just sort of just stuck in purgatory up near the top of the track, just thinking, please, please let me down, let me in. These 2 rows are pretty competitive. That top is going to become a factor in 5-6 laps, I think, and we're going to start seeing it push again.
Yeah, when it gets hectic towards the end of the stage, we're going to see these racers really begin to turn up the temperature. I do want to say that I was going to bring this up in reference to Andrew Dyson with the Andy's Ice Cream car, as you called it. I believe it's technically, I was going to break out the technicalities and say, oh, it's actually Andy's Custard, but, you know, it's basically the same thing. I think custard, maybe a bit more egg in it, if my time in culinary arts has taught me anything. My culinary arts class in high school taught me about as little about actually cooking as possible. Just basically, oh yeah, here's how to style a grilled cheese so you can sell it for $85,000.
Yeah, that was a very well actually moment, Ron. Thank you very much. I mean, I'm British, so I just see something that looks like ice cream on the side of the car, and I'm like, that's ice cream. I don't know anything, all right? That's my greatest weakness.
See, I would have thought that, I mean, I know the British have different terms for many things, you know, bonnet, hood, boot lid, trunk, aluminum, aluminium. I was thinking that ice cream would be under some sort of like different, like an alias in the UK. It'd just be like, I don't know, creamy frozen moo juice or something like that.
Line working again, and would you believe which car is at the head of it? Charles Velasquez Jr. doesn't want to hang back in the stage, actually. He wants to be a big part of it. He's cut off by the 87 of Wineland up on that top line, but now they're competitive again, and they've started running a little bit like this a lot sooner than I anticipated. Wineland all the way up to the front of the field. Velasquez Jr. is a pusher like I've never seen before. Like, that is some serious. Don't blow up the engine, my man. If you below the line there, a bit squirrely on exit, you can sort of dip down there, but if you gain a position, race control will be all over you up front. McWhorter makes the dive down, gets covered off by Wineland, who now decides the bottom is for the best. These guys are driving with a little bit of anger.
Yeah, we're now about 10 laps away from the end of the stage 2, so gonna get a bit more physical between now and the very end, as you can see another driver pulling out to maybe make something work. Do want to give a shout out though to Dave Hoytsma, the number 79 car, the father of Lucas Hoytsma, if my memory serves me correctly. Those two pretty much linked up on the racetrack as it stands right now, nose to tail in that 79 and 97 cars respectively. The other third and fourth place cars on the middle lane as it stands currently. Probably got to break away and just be a two-lane deal in the not too far off future, because that top side really losing out on some momentum. I say that right as we see it gain a little bit of momentum with Cliff Mullins at the front of it in that number 82 car. Again, some assistance right behind from Kyle Amon in the number 17 machine. Eddie Rose in the 46 car slotted right in tow. Do want to mention, though, one driver that we aren't seeing here tonight is Adam Benefiel. That playoff cushion that he had entering this race, 55 points, that's going to be rather slim come time for Martinsville.
I wouldn't make any predictions based upon what you're seeing now, although I've been spending the first half of this broadcast making predictions based upon what I see now. So, you know, that's me being a hypocrite as usual. Velasquez Jr., though, he's back on top of the whole field. He's just made it back up to first. Like, so if we want to talk about form and we want to talk about which drivers have sort of proven that they can perform here, I think we have a candidate here for what I think could be our most likely winner. And please tell me it is not so. Charles Velasquez Jr., you are welcome. It works, finally. Thank you, ATBO.
You know, Charles Velasquez Jr. with that brand new and improved name tag is peaking at the right time here in this season. We mentioned it quite a lot come time for the regular season finale at Gateway a few weeks ago, how he hadn't visited Victory Lane since round number 4 of the season at Phoenix, which, for context, folks, was all the way back on March the 7th. He went between March 7th and the regular season finale at Gateway all the way back on September the 5th between victories. And then after that was able to get the win in the second race of the round of 12 at Kansas to punch his ticket into the round of 8. Now here in the second race of the round of 8, has a good shot to get it done here. Just needs to keep it clean, keep it good. Otherwise, if he walks away from this race with a DNF, he is most certainly going to be in must-win territory come time for the next round of the season at Martinsville. And as much as I talked about the fact that Adam Benefiel not here, maybe going to be on a bit of a rough one at Martinsville next time out, he was the winner at Martinsville a little bit earlier on this year. So look at him to maybe impress, as Charles Velasquez Jr. is still the driver that I'm keeping my eyes on the most. If he can make it into the championship 4, he may be a really tough customer, because he won that opening race of the season. He won his first win here this season at Phoenix.
don't count on anything at Martinsville other than the torture of our souls. And the sort of everyone on the track. I mean, I make this all about myself, but race control's going to have a hard day. One thing to bring up, though, is that these cars are a lot more fragile than the Cup cars, so you do see a whittling in the field. We did see some cars already sort of explode earlier on. Oh, we're approaching one before white flag on the stage. Velasquez Jr. almost wipes out the field going up into the 73. Now Wineland leads. And it's okay to be second here. It's not going to be okay to be second by the end of the race if you're looking to get the win and you're in. This is pretty dramatic stuff. Velasquez is going to need to get out of line, maybe jump into that middle or do something else interesting to get Wineland. I was about to say get Wineland out of the way, but you don't really bump and run around here, do you? But this is the tension really ratchets up at the near the end of the stage. I just said it was almost the end of the stage again. It's 50. Okay, listen, maths have been very hard for me today. We actually have 5 laps to go on the stage, and it's all right for my whole family if I do that again, by the way. Make that 5 to go on the stage, but I'm not wrong about the tension. I'm not wrong about Velasquez Jr. Need to make his way around someone if he wants to win this.
Yeah, so who's going to be the first to step out of line and try and get that move done? Will we see Charles Velasquez Jr. try and get that move done, or is he just going to be happy running in P2 and pushing Wineland up there? I think Eric Wineland is a really strong contender to punch his ticket into the playoffs. Now, granted, if Charles Velasquez Jr. does leave this race with a victory, and depending on how other circumstances work out with the rest of the drivers here, probably going to walk away with probably going to be on the outside looking in, heading off into Martinsville next time out. But Eric Wineland, certainly a driver that we do have to consider there. Talking about another racer peaking at the right time. Wineland's first and so far only win here in 2025 came in that playoff opener at Bristol to put himself in a situation where he can think about being involved in the championship for this round of 8 has so many intriguing drivers, and we got so many of them up at the front. You look at the bottom lane, led by Eric Wineland, who got that win at Bristol to kick the playoffs off. You look at Joseph McWhorter, who really, it's a bit of luck really led him into this round of the playoffs based off some of the misfortune that fell his way in that round of 12. He was able to get into the round of 8 virtually by the skin of his teeth. And then you look at Lucas Hoytsma, your winner in the Talladega race a little bit earlier on this year, holding on to the lead on the high side. Lots of very talented racers from very different looking race cars, very different teams, and with very different routes to get to this position right now.
So now that I actually know how many laps there are in a stage, what does this mean for all this now? Well, still a few, and the tension, I think, has slowed down just a bit, and it will end up ratcheting its way back up before I'm even done finishing this sentence. I'm looking out for Dyson. There's a lot of shuffling in some of these back rows. They're not keeping their lines very, very safe and very, very clear. That's Eddie Rose in the 46. It looks like a Velasquez Jr.'s car up close. They're all tied to the bottom. Now a move to the top by Wineland. That's going to cover off Dyson, who should have seen that coming. Gives him a push. And this is going to lead to somebody's rows further back bogging down, I think. And I see Hoytsma on that top row. Dave's actually ahead of him. And that top hasn't really moved, although that 82 could start to make this happen.
Yeah, really, I think how things shake out in this stage is all going to depend on how exactly Cliff Mullins decides to tackle things here as he gets pushed big time from the 46s. Bryson Ixtabal going to say, you know what, I'm good. I'm not going to worry about all that. Frankly, with Jackson, that right there was a bad bump from Cliff Mullins to the back of Lucas Hoytsma. Nearly spins him off into the infield. I wonder if that was a mix of a slightly misaligned bumpers with the bumper. Maybe Lucas Hoytsma deciding to dive down a little bit farther behind, be the Pied Piper of these racers instead. Some very fast race cars on this bottom lane, but still a little bit squirrely with the bumping going on. Feel like something is going to snap here soon because these racers have been cranking the heat up on that pot for so long that something's going to have to boil over eventually.
You know, on most days you'll catch me on a rant about how I apparently hate plate racing, but this is pretty extraordinary stuff I'm seeing here, and The tension is building in my heart every time anyone that makes any decision. These guys certainly are aggressive. Hoytsma decides the bottom is it. Now, would you believe it, Ron? It's actually the white flag to the stage on the way now. The numbers do make sense, Howie, they do. So we have Velasquez Jr. bogged up on the bottom. Cliff Mullins looking to try and make that top work, but I don't think it will. Hoytsma being pushed by McQuarter. Wineland being pushed by Dyson. This is really where it's between. I think Dyson's going to do some work to win for that row, though.
Yeah, these drivers are going to have to put in a shift to try and figure out whether or not they're going to be able to go into the win in Stage 2, pick up those all-important playoff points for your top three at the moment. That will have a lot of significance. Will it go the way of Hoytsma? Will it go the way of Wineland? There's maybe no Woods in that 56 car. Got to peek at the right time. Look at him, that black and yellow car, trying to march his way up there, diving down to the inside. Lots of shuffling going on with these racers. McQuarter now leading that middle lane. Andrew Dyson going to play scab, leave the 73 car out to dry. Not going to be it, though, as Lucas Hoytsma going to walk away with the win in Stage 2. It's going to be Eric Wineland right behind Charles Velasquez Jr. Rounds at your top three. Andrew Dyson and all of that walks away with fourth. And Joseph McQuarter, not going to forget that. I can assure you that much. But we'll take a look at the results at the end of stage number 2 here in just a few moments' time of a second stage that, let's face it, had a bit more drama than the first.
Going to wait a second for results until we're all single file, just so everything looks correct. It looks good enough to me to pull them. So here we go. Lucas Hoytsma over the line ahead of Wineland and Velasquez Jr. 3 playoff drivers that really pushed for it all, but there was that bottom that was super dominant. Andrew Dyson's in 4th ahead of McQuarter, Woods, Root, Kluart, Stein, and Dave Hoytsma. 2 Hoytsmas making it into the top 10. And now we're going to mark that final stage. And the thing about that final stage is if we meet the standards we've been meeting so far, we may be getting a green flag pit stop in the middle of all of this.
No, that's a very good point that you raised. We've only had 1 yellow for incident, that coming right at the start of stage number 2. And frankly, that was definitely some extenuating circumstances resulting in that shifting around a little bit. This is going to be a very intriguing end to this. If we have got ourselves a green run through to the end, these racers will have to worry about those green flag stops. Now, I'm not sure about you, Howie, and how you're feeling about all this. I always am a fan of green flag pit stops on plate races. I think the drivers despise them, but from my perspective in the broadcast seat, I think they're rather interesting. Very, very exciting, too.
They're a part of the game, aren't they? I think, you lose such a degree of strategy if you don't have them, but the strategy's so different than a normal track. Obviously, you've talked about whether tyres matter. Spoiler alert, no. But it's not about timing it for tyres, but it's about timing it to be a part of the right group at the right time, because when you drop down to the back, with a pit stop, if you leave alone, you're kind of screwed. You're in big trouble. So, no. So you have to find people to work with, communicate with them, hit your mark together at such a high speed, which is very, very hard, and then make it out at the same time. It's fascinating and it's brilliant, and I do really, really love them. But hopefully this marks our final yellow pit stop for the whole field. Look out for Velasquez Jr., who did make that stop. Noah Woods did a similar strategy as well, by the way. So did Blake Kluart. So did Kyle Amon and Bryce Reiner. They all stopped under the caution for incident, which could have a big effect here.
As we see Charles Velasquez Jr. doesn't miss his pit stall on the second time of asking. He's on track. If he can just hold on to the same pace, hold on to the same speed, and still be the Pied Piper of this field come time for the very end, would be able to punch his ticket into that championship four. He'll look a little bit farther behind Noah Woods. I gotta say, gotta commend Noah Woods and the charge, the rally that he put on right at the very end of that stage. That was absolutely awesome stuff. As we got to the end of it, he's going to exit out in P2. You can see the rest of the field exiting out in 2. I'll let you all know, though, if you're enjoying tonight's broadcast of race number 31 of the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series here at Talladega, well, you should probably hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. If you'd like to be broadcasted here on Maconi Entertainment, if you have an iRacing league that you want to be broadcasted by us, you can go to MaconiEntertainment.com and scan that QR code on screen right now to see how to bring your racing action to life. But with all that taken care of, with the pit stops now in our rear view mirror, we go through the slight little calm before the storm before we head off into this final stage. The final stage probably going to be about 40 laps long once we get this back up and rolling. 40 laps of pandemonium, I think, would be the correct technical term.
I'm trying to work out when this happened. Hunter Trull made a pit stop during the last stage and then stayed out. This genuinely happened under green. I'm trying to find exactly the context. Here it is on the replay. So here's Hunter Trull. He just dips for pit lane. He manages to keep the lap. He just does a tiny splash and dash. And where has that put him? Because he's now 6 laps in on the stint, had a 7.5 second stop. Somehow managed to keep that. I don't know how we kept that lap. But either way, he now leads this field and is going to try playing the big reverse on all of us here. He's the only driver that tried something quite that daring and quite that ridiculous. But it's been a non-factorial race. We've not mentioned his name whatsoever. Can confirm to you, if you look at the stint length there, he definitely did that near the end of that stage. I think he may have done it just before the pits closed at the end of the stage. Got away with it and is now hanging out, leader of the front row, hoping to basically do a Velasquez Jr. who is where exactly? Where
Velasquez
did he drop
Jr.
off?
is all the way down in P17. He's down in 17th.
Keep an eye on this. Did something happen? Is this the sign of an end-of-line penalty? Or something
Did he pick up
similar?
Any sort of pit lane violation? Looked all right through there. I think. Let me see. I think we saw Charles Velasquez Jr. and a heap of other racers come in for a quick little splash and dash.
A second stop.
That's exactly what we just saw.
Did a
second stop.
It didn't want to do
Fascinating stuff.
Didn't want to do that, I presume. But maybe he's trying to cover this exact same threat now that Hunter Trull's just done. We're going to go green flag pit stops. Hunter Trull's just sort of threatened the field by saying, I'm going to now be offset on the strategy and finish ahead of you guys. So, and also Velasquez Jr. proved he can punch up to the front. So he's just decided to double down, do another stop, and try and play the same game from the back. Oh man, this is weird. It's such a weird day out here on the track.
I'm trying to think of any other way that I can amp up the weirdness. I think my normal commentary will do that just fine.
A lot. You know how to do that a lot.
Yeah. I'll break out a turkey call between now and the end of this race. Gobble, gobble, folks. But here we go. Hunter Trull, no Woods, going to be our front row, bringing us back to green flag racing with a very intriguing final stage here tonight. We got drivers on alternate strategies, drivers running on the apron, and drivers burning through the gears as we get them back up to speed. Look at that. Joseph McWhorter in that number 73 car diving down immediately in front of Andrew Dyson. Probably some love not being lost between those two after Dyson really left McWhorter out to dry. We think about Joseph McWhorter and his one win. That came at a track of similar length to this, but a very different structure. It was Pocono, where Joseph McWhorter scored his one and only win thus far this season. I think if anybody is looking to have a good night here, probably Joseph McWhorter, because he has been oh so close to breaking through, getting into victory lane since then, but just hasn't really been able to get the job done.
I mean, if you're here to make friends, you might be in the wrong place. So that's my perspective here right now. I feel like you want to not make enough enemies so you can make it to the end and push your way up. But ultimately, you don't have win Talladega by being entirely selfless. Top line so fast. Noah Woods drops back down now to try and give some more amp to the drivers down there. 39 to go on the race. You see now the overlay is specifically designed so that I can't get this wrong, which is the greatest achievement of all. It's between Root and Cunningham and Woods, and then Trull's the only playoff driver anywhere within any range of this whatsoever. We're seeing some of these drivers able to push their way up, but what a turnaround from the start of this race.
Yeah, that is a pretty mighty turnaround, and if we can keep that momentum rolling, that would be darn good. Hunter Trull, your winner at Talladega earlier on this season, not for the race, but for the Dash for Cash. That was actually the first Dash for Cash race of the season, way back in the spring. I was able to pick up a $100 paycheck there, and let's have another good night here, and who knows, maybe he can punch his ticket into the playoffs and get his first win of this season in what frankly would be very impressive fashion if Hunter Trull can get the job done here tonight. No Woods in that number 56 car at a mid-season number swap. I'm not sure if he had a team swap there, but he certainly had number swap. Woods, though, been a driver that, frankly, when he's been impressive, he's been pretty darn impressive. Look at him to maybe in these final few weeks, not involved in the playoffs currently, but maybe do a spot of trophy hunting between now and that season finale at Phoenix in 2 weeks.
Woods, just like Trull, one of those drivers that like sometimes just comes out and there's like a bit of magic in there, and other times you don't really see or hear very much from. It just sort of like, it very much varies based on the context and the situation, but sometimes you do just like notice like, whoa, this guy suddenly has the car for the day. Open setups here, of course, so you know, like teams are going to be really setting up their cars for different kinds of comfort under pressure and under duress here around Talladega Super Speedway. It's going to be less on the tires and stuff like that, but obviously setup can make a huge difference in terms of your pace and in terms of how you like running and what sort of lanes you like driving in. Kind of chill energy for now, and I mean, the longer we go, the more I think we are probably going to see those green flag pit stops. Don't give me the bad kind of commentator's curse. I can't take it.
I think I've been on an okay streak thus far here today. I haven't thrown any really appalling commentator's jinxes anybody's way. At least I don't remember doing it, but, you know, that happens so much that sometimes I can just completely blank it out of my head and absolutely forget all of that jazz. Let's see how it's going to be as look at Connery Cunningham. Cunningham has been consistently up there throughout this race, has never really dropped off the back of anybody for the entirety of this race, for that matter. He's just been consistently running up there, consistently running quick, and I mean, it hasn't been like the most like outrageous gutsy performance, but it's just been a good composed race from Connery Cunningham. Don't want to jinx him now, but it's been a good night.
You're right, actually. He's been one of those drivers that hasn't disappeared from the top. He's certainly not tried to play any unusual games on strategy either. He's just sort of run up near the front, been quite close to the right place. I've not put him down as a potential race winner, but I have sort of put him down as one of those that is always there. That is a car that looks a lot like Velasquez Jr.'s up front, the 64. But further up ahead, that 46 is actually Eddie Rose. You see they do the same design, but in reverse. But as I was saying, Charles Velasquez Jr. hasn't really worked his way up. He's 11th, but I think he's working his way up. Long stage to finish this race, and oh, he's going to send it free there as that 39 of Collins goes up high. Collins, one of those drivers that sometimes you just don't know what to expect from on the track. I think he's going to get followed by Velasquez, so.
Now, what do you do in this situation if you are Charles Velasquez? Because Rory Collins, yeah, the best way I could describe it's like following a public bus that's in both lanes at the same time. You don't really know, okay, do I go for the move with a bit of a tight squeeze, or just let that person be in front of me and maybe hold me up a little bit? I think Charles Velasquez Jr. may be feeling a little bit frustrated behind the wheel of that race car as he's tailing the 39 car of Rory Collins, putting in a pretty good performance as it stands currently. But yeah, keeps pulling out of line. I think Velasquez is going to say, like, you know what? Nope, it's you dug your hole here, buddy. I'm not going to have to bail you out in all of this. So Collins going to drop outside the top 10 That's my first commentator's jinx tonight. Right as I was talking about him having a good race, pulls out. I wonder if that could have maybe been for overheating, potentially, possibly. I know these Xfinity cars do have a bit of a problem when it comes to overheating in the sim, in the draft, so that could have been it for the 39. But regardless, Charles Velasquez Jr. now breaking his way into the top 10, slotted in P7 currently. What would be the strategy of choosing if you are Charles Velasquez? Do you really force this issue too much, or do you try and take it easy and wait for everybody else to crash, in the case of Eddie Rose nearly cutting off Noah Woods?
Was a little bit scary up the front. And I'm trying to... I wondered if that was going to kill the field, but it wouldn't quite. Eddie Rose certainly making those black, white, and gold precision cars represented near the front. But Velasquez Jr., 11th to 7th. Moving on and up in the world. He and Trull, obviously the two to watch when it comes to the pit strategy this race. Hixenbaugh, he's back in this as well. He's pushed his way all the way up to P3. Might even make it to P2 and P1. Eddie Rose drops down, cuts off Noah Woods. And we're seeing good things from these... We're seeing good things from... I said precision, it's another tier. So we're seeing good things from these two Conti brand cars in the black, white, and gold. That's the correct way to say it. As now they run side by side, and Velasquez Jr. is doing exactly what he promised to do in Stage 2, right up at the front with Lucas Hoytsman. They've been playing as a bit of a tag team.
Yeah, those two have been a dynamic duo thus far in this race, rather inseparable throughout a decent chunk of it. Right as I say that, though, Hoytsma going to dive down to the bottom lane, cover off the challenge from Hixenbaugh, and now it's going to be game on with Charles Velasquez Jr. looking to be the Pied Piper up at the front and try and give that high side a bit of a jolt in the arm, because it desperately needs that. I mean, look at the bottom lane. Pretty much everybody's down there. Top side, though, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, probably about, what do you say, 12 cars on that top side. Everybody else in this race right there on the bottom. And really, it's that top side looking more and more like an abandoned diner that you'd find in the middle of some dirt road in Nevada that you'd think is probably going to appear in some sort of like backrooms photo playlist, whatever you want to call it. The top side just does not have a lot of strength at the moment. It's losing momentum a little bit quickly. Right as I say that, though, it looks like Velasquez has been the shot in the arm that high side needed, finding a strong leader up at the front.
I feel like it's going to be hard to really call anything until the first wave of pit stops. We're sending it 3 wide. Another driver that I promise it's not just nepotism that makes me call out his name. Kurt Mills from nowhere. He's joined this pack up near the front. He's looking to try and get something good done in the playoffs now before Martinsville. Don't send it 4 wide, please. Oh, it's getting really sketchy. Really scary up near the front. Velasquez Jr., Hixenbaugh side by side. Lucas Hoytsman is now a top 3 of playoff drivers. That 13er Cody Bird as well. He ain't running the Eagles anymore. He was embarrassed after last week, but here he comes up near the front too. Heard that. Had to do it to you. But he's up near the front as well. And now the Taco Bell 13, he's made a brand new row. And the drivers behind, they sort of give up on that top.
Running in that Taco Bell car, looking to ring the bell after tonight. That was terrible. I sincerely apologize. But let's see what Cody Bird can do. He could have switched his affiliation to the Flyers based off the fact that they did win a game this past week. Yes, a game. That is an achievement for the Philadelphia Flyers. They haven't won anything, as Bill Burr once said in his infamous rant about the city of Philadelphia. That's won anything since Gerald Ford was in office. You got, though, Cliff Mullins in that 82 car. A bit of a shock to see Mullins up there. We don't really talk about it too much here in this series, but running in P2 as it stands right now, pushing Charles Velasquez Jr. up in the front with 28 laps left to go in this race. That 82 car may be a dark horse at the end of all this. We've got plenty of dark horses up at the front. It's a Talladega race. This is the track that gives us the definitive underdog winners. Cliff Mullins will be a pretty darn good story.
Yeah, you mentioned Cliff Mullins, and here he is again. I remember him sort of pushing up that top. Kurt Mills on that top. every time I say something ridiculous happens. Charles Velasquez Jr. just got punted up 2 lanes and is going to drop like a rock, try and get into lane behind the 71. This is so, like, I seem to recall the Talladega race earlier this season for the Friday Night Lights Series being a bit boring. You might be able to correct me on this, but I recall it kind of going down to fuel strategy. This has been absolute Talladega chaos, though. This has been what it's all about. People have really decided that they've got a lot more confidence in themselves in the field, and they are just going to push the ever-loving hell out of each other and push each other around. So it's really hard to keep a coherent thought, because every time you come up with a thought wrong, like, the drivers just find a way to surprise you.
See, I think it may also be down to the fact that as the people on Twitter, or X, or Fandango, Grubhub, whatever they call it nowadays, I don't know wheel, according to some people. I do not know wheel, so that could be the reason why everybody's, as soon as I say something, and the drivers just completely do the opposite. That's usually how it goes with me. So I'm not going to make any predictions. I'm going to say there's no way they're going to have a 5-wide photo finish at the end of this race, and bang, we're probably going to have that happen between now and the end of this race. In 26 laps from now is the scheduled end. We do have some yellows and a bit of chaos towards the end. We may have some green-white checkers to worry about, but for now, we have just got a straight shootout, and these racers looking to settle this race into a bit of a groove. You know, it may be the final stage, maybe the point where these racers want to take it easy, though, and just be there at the very end, whittle these laps away, and then probably in about 15 laps time, that's when you really start to get aggressive.
I mean, if you're implying we're going to get more aggression and some of the madness we see here. We've not even done a pit stops yet. We don't even have pit stops. On the topic of pit stops, by the way, Hunter Trull has been out for 23 laps. He's been out for the longest. He made a stop near the end of the last stage. Most drivers have been out for 18 laps. We're getting quite close to an inflection point, but obviously let's try and cut this stage in half before we talk too much about it. 25 to go. Kirk Mills seems to have something in that engine that means he can sometimes just dive up to the top and fly. He's just up to P5 right behind Trull, who cuts him off. I mean, dare I say, a little rude for a car that had that much rocket fuel in it, and that sort of bogged up the whole middle and the top. Sometimes I try, like, these drivers are some of the best. They simply are. Like, we don't really do, like, SOF here, but, like, we have 7K I rating drivers. We have a 3K SOF. These drivers are better than me at what they do, so maybe they just have to be more aggressive. But I sometimes just feel like just sort of sticking with myself rather than playing as boldly as some of these guys have around here, because the race is long.
Yeah, these are some very, very long races. Have to go about it in a different way than what you do in most races. You have to go a bit more of a methodical approach entering off into this race. Is taking a little bit more easy at other points. Really, you gotta pace yourself in these races. I think even at a plate race, when you're just worried about mashing the throttle, lifting off a little bit to try and get the run, and just hit your marks as well as you can down pit lane. It's still a race where you gotta take it easy at certain points. You gotta push when maybe you don't want to. You gotta take it easy when maybe you don't want to. Don't worry about the mental side of things. There's so much that goes into doing well in these races, and the drivers who have already visited victory lane able to get that down to a science. Charles Velasquez Jr. looking to go into victory lane for the third time this season and punch his ticket into the championship. We'll know with Bryson Ixenball running up towards the front with his points cushion entering this race. If he has a good night, that'll pretty much just surefire lock him in to the next round of the playoffs. And of course, we'll be able to keep you up to date and in the loop about the playoff situation come time for the next round of the season at Martinsville in just 1 week's time here on Maconi Entertainment, here to bring the action to life. But Charles Velasquez Jr. trying to bring the action on the high side as he's currently side by side with Lucas Hoysma, another playoff racer looking to make a splash at the same track that he won at in the spring.
You talked about the possibility of the double super speedway win, and it's starting to look more realistic in time. Lucas Hoytsma has been competitive, and really I think the field has sort of evened back out after the anomaly that was our pit stop. Cliff Mullins is obviously the surprise, but a lot of those drivers that were near the front of the start of the race are back near the front front now, with just a few changes here and there in the pack. So we're sort of dead even on it. 82 leads. Lucas Hoitzma probably just wants to sit in line for a bit. And we're at about the point where drivers are 21 laps into the stint. It's 22 to go. It will then flip those numbers on the other side of the stage, and then we'll talk about the pit stops. I have driver radio in my ear, and I will shout over you in the moment somebody tries to report and coordinate this. We've heard nothing so far, but we will start hearing from drivers very, very soon.
Have to come up with a coded message for when the drivers come down pit lane, just scream into our microphones fiddly D once they finally do make that call. As Raymond Root dropping down the number 91 car. He's been up and down throughout this field quite a lot. Daniel Llewellyn, we speak about racers who have won plate races thus far this season. Daniel Llewellyn won the first. Let's see if he can win the last. That 07 car, really, for lack of a better term, outside of that win at Daytona, I really haven't seen much of any form of spark from that 07 car. But if he can end off this season with the visit to victory lane once again, make it a multi-win season, that's got to be some consolation, even with the rather nonchalant playoff exit. Really nothing to note in reference to the run in the playoffs from Daniel Llewellyn, outside of the fact that he started off the season with the win at Daytona, punched his ticket in the earliest, and was also one of the first drivers out of the playoffs at the end of the round of 12. Llewellyn, though, holding on to P9 in that 07 car, could make his way up. We just have to worry about how these final 20 laps are going to unfold.
It's been ridiculously clean, although desperation can always trigger big ones and green-white checkers. We've not had anything that resembles a big one. We've had a pretty small one on a race restart, but actually under racing conditions, pretty much no one has put a foot wrong. Here's some more lapped cars coming around with the field, by the way. I believe Bryce Rhino's 1 lap down and in this field. That's Dave Hoitzma 1 lap down and now taking the high side. It's Charles Eaton. Charles Eaton is 10 down, and I respect the hustle of running alone at Talladega for not many points, to be totally honest. I respect the act of doing it, let me put it like that. By the way, fun fact, in real life, the Xfinity for Talladega race has only been won by Chevrolet. So count those on the front row, baby, because we might be in a chance for a repeat if Cliff Mullins takes it, but Lucas Hoitzma is in that Ford further behind, and my homies Toyotas are nowhere to be seen.
And unfortunately, my personal homies, the Oldsmobiles, went the way of the Dodo Bird many, many moons ago. So, not going to have to worry about that here. Cliff Mullins, your current race leader. Hoitzma slide in P2. Charles Velasquez Jr. getting a bump from Kyle Amon to lead the top side, as we're now finally within the final 20 laps of this race. Starting to bring up that tension, bring up the action a little bit more. Now we got to see what would be the over-under in terms of how long we have that until that third lane begins to form.
Maybe not until after pit stops, because one of the big problems with pitting at Dega is, and Daytona, is you have to be on the bottom to make it happen. So you have to set yourself up quite a bit in advance, because obviously what you're going to do is just jump down from the top and just go, how do I need a turn signal to go through these lanes? None? Okay, goodbye everybody. I don't think that sees you into next week. I think you have to set up in advance. The space isn't really being given unless you ask for it. So really, I think drivers might get a bit desperate near the end of the race, but we've seen some success. Kirk Mills seems to perpetually jump up to the top, fly up like he's in a Ferrari, and then dip back the moment someone takes that spot up on the high line. But Hunter Trull did that last. Where has Hunter gone? I mean, he will have to be the first to stop here. He's been out for 31 laps, longer than anyone else stopped under green in the last stage. He's still hanging out there. I mean, please don't tell me we can fuel save this again. I will cry, and I have neighbours at 3 in the morning. Like, please.
If I was one of your neighbors at 3 o'clock in the morning, I heard you crying after talking about race cars, I would come next door with a bottle of Southern Comfort. I'll be honest. That's,
I mean,
that would be the way.
You should have heard me panicking about my mic not working 10 minutes before live and leading me to miss like 5 cues on the opening of this show. I mean, these things happen.
You know, I will say, doing whoa, okay, I was just gonna share a little story of Charles Velasco Jr. gets hung out to dry and all that shuffling hanging down into turn number 3. He's gonna be stuck on the high side, gonna have to pretty much build himself up from the ground up. Think about that fall Talladega race. Did see some fuel saving at the very end, if my memory serves me correctly. I think that may have been the case at Daytona back in the end of the summer. So we'll have to see. We will have to see if these drivers can make it all the way through to the end. I know for sure one thing, and that is it's getting a bit more frenetic. These drivers starting to dice a little bit more. Saw Raymond Root really cutting some shapes as he had his way off through the tri-oval a few moments ago. Cliff Mullins leading that inside line. Kyle Amon now top of the board on the high side. I gotta say, and this is honest, as much as he shot himself down into P16, Carlos Velasquez Jr. may have just put himself in a good spot, because really, that frenetic it's getting, that may be a good spot to be in. I would prefer to be on the bottom lane instead of the top, but yeah, I would prefer to be out of the bit of drama that causes any sort of incident between now and the end.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he might have done that on purpose? God, guys, can I say something without you guys threatening to wreck the whole field? 13 almost pulling down, sending it 3 wide in the middle of everybody. In fact, in general, Cody Bird is wobbling around the track. 14 to go. Please don't tell me I talked for this long about pit strategy for it to not work. He's doing it again. He just does not seem to be able to keep that stable on exit. I assume he's not going for the top. No, he's just going to drop back, down and out. Raymond Root calling 3 wide for a second. For some reason, it's like he's just playing spotter for the rest of the chat or something. Cliff Mullins leads another lapped car on the way. That's probably what the conversation is about, actually, as Charles Eaton, God bless someone that hangs in there. That's all I'll say. What's this back at the top again? Whoa!
Ooh. No, yeah, I was just going to say, if we saw a Kevin LePage moment hang down to turn number 1 and 2, I think I would walk out of this broadcast booth at protest. But as we get closer and closer to the end, these racers are getting a bit more dicey. It's getting a bit more dangerous. That is for certain, as he's going to be the next to go for a gutsy move. That's Eamon dipping down into the bottom lane, cutting off the charge from Cliff Mullins in that 82 car. Lots of underdogs up in the front, lots of playoff racers up in the front as well. Hoytsma, Mills, and Hicksonball. Haven't really talked about Kirk thus far in this race. If Kirk can walk away from this with a P5, just anywhere on inside the top 10, that'd be a darn good performance from him. Even in terms of just trying to be the closest driver to make a statement at Martinsville next time out. Kyle Amon, Raymond Root, top of the board now as Root leading that high side. It is getting super frenetic here, and as much as I feel bad saying it, I feel like these racers are certainly playing with fire. Could very well see an incident disrupt this totally green run up to this point. Stage 3 as they are 3 wide, a little bit farther behind, really stacking up as they had their way off through there. Look at Connery Cunningham bouncing up and down. That's not going to work. Around goes the 07. He gets saved by the 56, but the caution is out.
Well, that's interesting. We have our yellow. We have our no green flag pits. We'll never get to find out whether we were wrong because we'll either stop now or we just won't. But that was really interesting because that's a wreck that's caused a yellow, but it was not a big one. And every driver's going to make it out here in one piece. Connery Cunningham with the 07. Let's go back slightly further with this. So it's Connery Cunningham in the middle. Who's in that 07? It's Daniel LeWallen. That's a name we've not mentioned, or I have not mentioned at any point during this race. It's free and it's dicey in there, and I don't really see much room for that 78. And the 29 is actually one of the cars that starts this. It happens to the road back. So that's Tanner Marty. Back one more time. Get out the chopper. I have a big list of cameras, man. It's hard. So actually, it's really, with this road behind, 73 dips down, 29's wobbly. 29's just loose as all hell. At the same time, that 65 sort of just goes up high. 64's around, up ahead. That Charles Velasquez Jr. is going to need to reset. I mean, this is a lot. A lot happens here all at once. I think it was a 59 up there in the middle. It's actually the squirrely one, that's Nick Stein. One of the drivers are set to off, and then at the same time, that instability that's already just sort of kicked off in the pack then triggers the incident here. As 59 jumps up, and it's a 7 and a 78 bumping around, wobbling. Around goes the 07 into the way of Noah Wood, and that going sideways triggers the yellow. So no big one. A few drivers have been hurt by this. Other ones are going to get away with this, I think, because you do get a lot of time to repair under yellow if you have to. And that's going to set up a 10-lap shootout.
See, the problem is when it comes to side-to-side car contact heading off through a super speedway like Talladega, if you're in the middle of all that, it's basically like falling down a flight of stairs. There's really nothing you can do to stop it. You're pretty much just along for the ride. Saw pretty much 3 cases of that in the span of about 10 seconds, 5 seconds for that matter. Pretty much 2 going on simultaneously, frankly. It was a hectic way to bring to an end the longest green flag run thus far here tonight. But we do have the yellow out. We're probably going to potentially see these racers come in quick for a quick little splash and dash at the end of this race as well, just to know that they can make it on fuel. But we got to wonder if the yellow breeds yellow situation is going to rear its ugly head here too.
I mean, very true. It's very interesting because cautions don't necessarily breed cautions at Talladega because the pack's all together. But at the same time, 10 to go breeds cautions, if you know what I mean. Like the race being 10 to go certainly will encourage these sorts of behaviour, especially from drivers like Velasquez Jr., who's taking repairs in pit lane. And he's going to be able to, you see dents on that car, that's going to affect his speed. He's going to get out to keep his lap. I'm sure he's watching the Delta behind. Brian Wertman, another car that, I've not even seen on the track all day today, and he took damage here. Velasquez Jr. is going to have to leave pretty soon because the pack's on their way, but he'll do it. But he'll be back at the lap, and he's got to get up in 10 laps. What does this do for the playoff situation? Who's up near the front? Raymond Root, non-playoff. Kyle Amon, non-playoff. Kirk Mills, playoff and a big payoff for being up this high. He's sort of, I think Kirk Mills is broadly safe. But no, he's not broadly, he's just below the cut. But he's 15 down, needs good finishes, need other people to have a bad time. This could be his day. Other drivers, Lucas Hoitzma is the next playoff driver. Then Wineland and then Hickson-Bar. But that's 6, 7, 8, and you don't know what's going to happen next.
If we have a Kirk Mills win to commentate here tonight, with the broadcast booth is going to explode.
We're not biased.
That's exactly what's going on.
We're not biased, except for the fact that we are a little bit biased. Oh,
I was mainly just referencing Kirk. I know the energy that man brings to a broadcast close to midnight. Him and I broadcasted the FLCC 600 back in May, and that race, I think I finally got to bed that night at about 2:30 in the morning. So I know the energy and thunder that he can bring there.
My average Friday Night Lights, it's 3 in the morning right now, and it hasn't been a particularly slow race. I just do it because I'm paid for it, all right?
For continuity reasons, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this.
And this time, the stream might not die with 10 to go, although I hate to commentators curse my own broadcast, because if it happens 2 weeks in a row, I'm in trouble, okay? But I've been doing this job and then having the secondary fear back in my head the whole time. Screw you, Discord. Your Discord ruined it. It was Discord's fault, okay?
Damn you, Discord. That was cheap. That was cheap for me, I'll be honest.
Well, nice one. We're all clapping.
I just cut my own voice, yeah.
We're all clapping. I knew you were doing it.
About as slick as 80 grit sandpaper. We've got ourselves a restart to talk about. Now, is it the last one here tonight? Who knows? We did see a bit of drama during stage 2. We have seen a little bit of drama thus far here on the final stage. I feel like the fall race is usually the one where the chaos breaks out the most at the very end. the spring race, it was a Dash for Cash rate event, so that did add a little bit more drama to it. But here, we've got a lot at risk. Drivers looking to get their one and maybe only win this season. Others looking to punch their ticket into the championship for who's going to get it here tonight at Talladega. As that pace car is down pit lane, going to have 8 laps of racing action left here tonight. Who's going to be able to get the job done as we're back to green flag conditions? Raymond Root going to lead us across the line. He's got Kirk Mills right behind him, supplying the bumps, and you look on the high side, it's Kyle Amon and Cliff Mullins duking it out. Despite the fact that one of these men is a playoff contender, it still feels like the top 5 consisting of entirely underdogs.
So either drivers didn't need the pit stop at all and we have egg on our face, or the yellow helped them save enough, which is the timeline I'm going to choose to go with, because we had no pit stops. What are we doing in the back of this field, people? The 45 sort of moving up a lane, 46 Eddie Rose threatening us with a bad time here at Talladega Super Speedway, and a big one. And a big one is not outside of the rear view mirror, given the way these drivers go. That top lane is going to appear sooner than we anticipate, I think.
3 wide as they come across the line now with 8 laps left to go. Look at all the shuffling going on that bottom lane. Really, all of the lanes just trying to find any sort of momentum, trying to find those engine cars right at the back of it to try and push them along. Will it be that top side gaining the most momentum? Will it be the middle, or will it be the bottom? That bottom lane has been the popular choice. Frankly, if you're at the end of a race, trying to just be there at the very end, the bottom lane probably the recommended one, so you can have some sort of escape chute in case anything may go awry. Kirk Mills is currently the lead car on that bottom side. Even if he doesn't get the win here tonight, it would still be a very good points haul for Kirk. He's done well in the stages. If he can walk away from this race with a good result, he'll be doing very, very well. May even be able to elevate himself off into the playoff spots above that cut line, entering the race at Martinsville next time out. But that right there, jumping right in front of him, was Raymond Root, apologies, is right behind him. It's actually Cliff Mullins right in front of him. Hoytsma, your current race leader, though, leading that middle charge in that 97 car.
Bryson's back right up near the front. He'd love to get a win, as I mentioned earlier, just for pride's sake. His position in these playoffs for the Final Four is almost guaranteed here, but he would just love the opportunity to just drop in and say, I can still do it after a run that's been disappointing so far. Lucas Hoytsma, he's going to like a good points payout. He is above the cut. It's a little bit precarious, but it's not a total disaster. Eddie Rose could just take this from everyone, though, over the line and say, you're going to have to settle this on points, and we're not going to get it. We're going to stay firmly 3 wide. Charles Velasquez Jr. spun under the last caution. He's 12th now. He's on the top. That's where you go if you want to make miracles happen. But miracles are going to have to happen to put him up near the front, I think. I think he's being pushed right now by Jim Schofield, another driver we haven't mentioned at all this race, just because it's been so active up near the front. We have 5 to go. Bit of movement in the back. That's Velasquez Jr. moving down to the middle. He's desperate to make anything happen at all here.
Trying to put his nose to the grindstone, see who can get the job done here tonight. There's a lot of tension, a lot of pressure, a lot of different racers looking to stake their claim on either a good result here tonight or a win. As look at that, the 87 and the 97. That's Eric Wineland giving a big bump to the back of Lucas Hoytsma, going to power his way up to the front, currently leading that middle lane. As you look right behind, 2 more playoff racers running right in tow, Joseph McWhorter and Hunter Truel, the 2 other cars involved in that mid-lane battle. You look at the high side, that's being led by Blake Kluot, the driver of the number 4 car. Started his time in the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series rather late, but he does have a win in his back pocket this season, that coming at Watkins Glen, right towards the tail end of the regular season. He's holding on to a good spot right now. Is Bryson Exegol power his way through, as that's Eddie Rose driving up into the side of Eric Wineland, as Lucas Hoytsma going to dive down right in front of him. 3 to go now here at Talladega, and they're 3 wide up at the front once again.
hidden that tower so we can get the best view of this. Wineland is in the 97. Hoytsma's in the 97. Wineland in the 87. Eddie Rose in that 46. And Joseph McWhorter coming up the way in the 73. This is going to just be a simple... Okay, how about we do it like this? Here's your battle in the corner of the screen. Here are the drivers that are looking out for it as I try and give you maximum real estate here. And Hoytsma's holding out strong right now, but there's going to be some big pushes. Velasquez Jr. down and out of this, I think, 17th. No chance for him without a big wreck to change things as the tension ratchets up here.
Now with 2 to go and playoff worries, contact being made with the 71, the 87. That's Hunter Trull and Eric Wineland. Wineland now top of the cars on that high side, stacking up big time. That's Charles Velasquez Jr. spinning off big time. Contact being made. Kirk Mills involved in all that. The 82 getting a piece of that drama. They will spin down to the infield. They're below that double yellow line though, so as much as there's smoke in the air, the caution now going to come out. I think that was a car stopped above the apron that brings it out, but we are under yellow, and no matter how it ends, it's going to be a green-white checker tonight, and you can see all of that contact. Heartbreaker for Kirk. Huge hit into the wall, and that was a 46 of Eddie Rose pretty much ollieing off of the side of the 82.
We think a car might have blown up in the field to start this. It was Kirk Mills' engine. No, it wasn't. No, I'm hearing from the chat. Trying to work out. Someone's engine blew up in the middle of that, and that is what started the entire parade. I wonder if maybe, if we really zoom in on the drones, we can like actually see which car this came from. Caution's going to be a long time running. It happens on the bottom line. It's Rose, Mullins, Mills. Somewhere within there. It's the 46, is it? It's the 46 of Rose, I think.
Yeah, I think that had to have been it. Unfortunately, he gets caught up in that drama, and you could see him, some aerial acrobatics and all of that, but it had to have been it. I was thinking it was the 82 is actually, let's listen in to hear this with Eddie Rose as he heads his way out of there. Bang, it goes. Engine let go for Eddie Rose. I mean, he crashed out anyways.
Is it Rose or Mullins? I heard the noise sort of behind him. It must have been Rose. Yeah, that was Rose's car.
Just slowed down way too quickly.
Yeah. And that, I think mostly 3 cars wiped out, because that's Workman alive, and that would mean everyone else is alive. And green-white checkered at Talladega. What else can you expect? Sort of thing that happens on this track, to be totally honest, when drivers push themselves and each other just a little bit too hard. So, these cars' engines explode. It happened at Daytona, I believe, and it's happened again here. What has this done to the field? McWhorter leads. Hoytsma's in second. Wineland's in third. It's a Hickson-Bar in fourth. It's a playoff shootout. Trull in sixth. No, Woods is the only driver breaking this up. Velasquez Jr. may have taken some damage or might just be bad on fuel. I don't know, but he's in the pit lane, and you're not going to win a green white checker for the pit lane unless the Moses parts the Red Sea in front of you. So I consider him just sort of down and out. I want to see if maybe Velasquez Jr. actually was sort of caught up in any of that action and maybe just took a bit of damage that was going to mess him up. Let's just keep hitting rewind until we can get a close look at his car. Damn, this caution took a long time. We were watching a lot of replays. These things happen. Here's Velasquez's car. Does he take a tag from this? I think you might have called it. He does have damage on the rear. That's a janky rear. All right. So you do want that repaired anyway. That's the explosion. He's okay, but he's got a janky rear, and I assume that janky rear probably affected his ability to really catch up with the field, so he's just decided to make it into the pit stop and hope for the best.
I mean, with the points situation that he found himself in heading off into this race, I mean, after missing out on Las Vegas, he was already in a pretty big hole, 30 points below the cutoff line heading off into this race. And even with the pretty darn good performances that he put in throughout the first two stages, Velasquez maybe putting all of his chips into the basket that were going to have a very disrupted end to this race, which, I mean, I gotta say, not exactly the worst bet to place in the world. I'll say, though, he's right behind Kirk Mills, slotted down in P23, and Mills we saw had a pretty sickening hit and all that. Is he still down in the pits? Has he actually rejoined the racetrack, or he's still down in pit lane? Because if he came in for a quick little splash and dash, thinking, okay, you know what, we're probably going to have a lot of interruptions between now and the very end, maybe deciding to put his eggs in that basket and see if he can make it to the end in case we do have multiple green-white checkers. Kirk Mills dives down to the apron, locks it up. Quick little brake test there. Not going to know why that was the case. But nope, we've got ourselves a packing up field. We have got what could be the final restart of the night here at Talladega with some very big playoff implications.
Yeah, this has gone from spoilers to wreck the playoffs to a playoff showdown. Let's just have one more quick sort of run through of the playoff drivers here. Who are the most important ones this is for? Well, drivers below the line. McQuarter just below. Hunter Trull very below. Charles Velasquez Jr. needs to win in Martinsville. Good luck, buddy. You've been a great driver, but missing last week has really affected his run. Wineland just above the line. Lucas Hoitzma a bit more above. Hickson Bar doing it for pride and so he can beat his teammate for once, which, I mean, I'd say that Benefield's been getting the better of him for a good number of weeks in the playoffs, but his position is very secure on points, is your reminder of the standings going in. So a little bit of everything in there. We return to action, and this is going to simply be explosive to the end.
It's certainly going to be explosive with the drama, just in terms of the playoffs and all that stuff. Explosive in terms of the action out there on the racetrack. We may have to touch on that. I would not rule it out. If I were a betting man, I'd probably be homeless. But you know, it's neither here nor there. We've got ourselves a dramatic end. No matter how you slice it, it's gonna be dramatic. It's gonna be awesome. Who's gonna come out this race smelling like a bed of roses? Will it be either of the driver that are going to be on the front rows? We get this race back up and rolling. First green-white checkered attempt tonight. That's Lucas Hoitzma and Joseph McWhorter leading us to green. McWhorter, your race leader. Hoitzma, your reigning Talladega winner here in the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series, looking to punch his ticket into the championship four. Eric Wineland, though, got his playoffs kicked off in the best way imaginable with a win at Bristol. Can he keep that form going here at Talladega and punch his ticket into the championship race? Who's going to win out? Who's going to get a good run? McWhorter very quick on the backstretch, looking at everybody else right behind, though. Who's right behind him? It's Eric Wineland. Those two up in the front have a lot to benefit in case they do win this race. They were the ones that were a little bit touch and go in terms of making the championship four on points. A win would give them a hell of a lot of comfort as we head off to Martinsville for the next round of the season in just 1 week's time. For now, though, we don't have to worry about 1 week from now. We got to worry about one lap from now. As a white flag in the air, one more lap of racing action here at Talladega at Joseph McWhorter over Eric Wineland. Lucas Hoitzma has Hunter Trull right behind him. Will there be enough of a run between those drivers? You look at the 59 car of Nick Stein and the 17 car right behind. Really not a lot of help for the 97 and the 71. Here comes the 57 of Noah Woods. He bails out of it. He's got to jump out to the high side. Call Amon now going to be the only source of comfort for these racers as the 56 going to dive back in. He will. Might be an even keel. Chug up to the line. Contact being made. 87 and 97. The 71 of Hunter Trull. They all wreck. They come into the tri-oval. They wreck big time as the 97 of Hoytsma going to lead them. The 47 of Jim Shoefield and the 41 come across the line. And I think Andrew Dyson may have just snookered a win.
Oh, no. No. I'm glad you called that and not me. There's going to be some tension in the chat over that one. Everyone pushing for every last bit. And what happened? Oh, my God. What did we just miss? Excuse me. We missed the big one. That bit of hood is going to hit someone in the crowd and really hurt real bad. Well, that is an unbelievable, shocking finish, really. That's the most I can say about it. I mean, I'm really speechless, and my job, unfortunately, is to talk. So, you know, that's not very helpful. I know. Cut the back of the field beforehand. We'll get there. There's a lot to watch. There it all goes. 97 turned. Oh, big death. And that run to the line with Dyson. Like, let's see how close that was to the end. Let's get the drone cam out for that one. Yes. I love. So Andrew Dyson, here he is. He's not in with a shot. There goes that side of a wreck. And already, they're still in the 97 and the 73 up ahead. He's going to go flying for this anyway. Takes the high side. I did something like this in C Fixed earlier this week, actually. And that's just going to be the run to the line. I think we have the speed shot over the line. And wonder if we can get a good start-finish shot of those three cars, but I think it definitely, well, I think it's Dyson's. It's certainly Dyson's. That'll do it. Here's our run to the line. Yeah, that's Dyson's.
He gets a W. Jim Shoefield, shout out to Jim Shoefield, walks away with 2 at the end of this race. Incredible stuff from him. And Lucas Hoytsma, P3 for him here in this race. It's not going to be the win that he desired. I think he's probably going to be the happiest out of everybody in the playoffs, as that's a more drama going on. The 64. Oh, what could have been for Charles Velasquez Jr. here tonight. He's going to have it's must win for him at Martinsville next time out. That's all it is for him. It's that and that alone, as we saw.
He was the trigger for that.
Down in there.
Oh, he was the trigger for that going up a lane as well. He's trying to force his way through, trying to get every point he possibly can here. And it's him and the 79 coming together. Oh, and then further up the road, let's just see if we can just sort of break this down a bit. We saw the 97 went down into the 73, and the 71 goes top at the same time. 73 now pushed below the line. He's uneven, going to be sent back up, and that's it all. The 87 and the 73, they've been sort of joined together all race, and this time, though, it sort of led to disaster.
I gotta say, though, and this is honest, Andrew Dyson proving in that finish that it is entirely possible to win a NASCAR race by sheer goddamned accident. Dyson gets the W here, 17 thousandths of a second at the line between himself and Jim Shoefield, with Lucas Hoytsma slotted in P3, 28 thousandths behind Dyson. That is insane. 300th of a second, the gap between those competitors. Should be noted, though, Andrew Dyson actually going to join a rather elite club. Just the third driver from this Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series season to get more than one win. The other three drivers, of course, being the likes of Bryson Ixenball, Adam Benefiel, and Charles Velasquez Jr. But Hoytsma does not complete the Talladega sweep, and that also makes it 6 different winners in the 6 plate races that we had thus far that had during the season. Insane stuff. Rory Collins slotted in third. Rory Collins slotted fourth, I should say. Joseph McWhorter slotted in fifth. Nick Stein finishes in P6. Bryson Ixenball in seventh. Connery Cunningham, Michael Deach, and Tim Phillips rounds out your top 10.
Has to make it one of Collins' best finishes ever. Daniel Lewan in an 11th ahead of Mason Lowry, Brian Workman, Bryce Reiner, Raymond Roots, Dave Hoitzma, Hunter Truell, Velasquez Jr., Kirk Mills, all victims of circumstances at Talladega, as well as Blake Court, Eric Wineland, Woods, Amon Bird, Rose, Mullins, Eaton, Marty, Benjamin, and Princeton. All go along the line. Matthew Boston Wheeler, actually our first retirement. And as I always say when I'm on the call, holding out that one day Jason S. Taylor won't get disqualified. Man's got it. Man's got good things coming. Let's talk to some drivers. Would you like to talk to our race winner?
Yeah, I think we got some drivers looking to have a chat with us. We'll get things up and rolling by having a chat with our race winner, Andrew Dyson, joining us here in the broadcast booth. Andrew, I believe it's a good morning for you. How was that race at Talladega? That looked like an absolutely insane finish.
Oh, man, it is a great morning. And good evening to you guys. Insane finish, yep, definitely. Unexpected. All I was doing, man, was just, I don't know, I was sitting behind someone coming out of four, and I thought, yeah, I'll sit behind this guy, and it all started kicking off down the bottom, so I went up, and then I went down. So basically, I zigged when I should have zigged, and then I zagged when I should have zagged, and just ended up in the right spot, and the next thing you know, I still had a run, and I didn't expect it to last to the line, but wow, that's pretty unbelievable, pretty unexpected, but yep, we'll take that, 100%. Put it on the wall, you know, for everyone to see, like, that's the best. So good.
You know, I was just saying before we moved off into the interviews that you joined a very exclusive club this season of drivers here in the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series to get more than one win. The other three being the likes of Bryson Ixenball, Adam Benefiel, and Charles Velasquez Jr. joining that club. Even though you're not running in this series for points, you're merely going out trophy hunting while you look to try and get a championship over in the FLCC. So I want to ask you about how fun it is just to pop into these races, get a little bit more seat time before the race, a little bit later on this weekend, and just have a lot of fun in the process.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. It's just a bit of fun. I wouldn't even call it trophy hunting. Maybe it kind of was a little bit at Portland, but I haven't raced Portland before, and it looked like a really fun track. I wanted to get involved, so jumped into that one. But for the other super speedway races I've done this year, which I think I might have done at Daytona or another Talladega, I was literally just jumping in just to make up the numbers and just to get the eye in for super speedway style racing. And I think I did okay last time as well. I didn't like super set the world on fire or anything. I was just sort of running around, just being a, NPC, I suppose. But man, yeah, fun is an understatement. I mean, these races are pretty like meh most of the time. You're just sort of riding. Until it can get pretty intense. If you're at the front, you got to push somebody or whatever. But most of the time, it's pretty just, whatever's happening. You're just going through the motions until you get to the end of the races like that. And when it's good, it's good. Like, it's the best. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it was certainly a good night for you, walking away with the W tonight. I would ask you about the next race of the season at Martinsville, but considering you're a driver over in the FLCC, I'll give you the floor to kind of ask you about your thoughts entering race number 2 of the round of 8 for the full-length Cup Challenge tomorrow night here on Maconi Entertainment, same place at Talladega.
Yep, pretty much same deal, man. I'll roll up. Probably not with as much as you to just make up the numbers. Like, I want to run as well as I can, but still try and stay on the safe side as much as possible of things. And if I can jag a couple stage points, that'd be awesome. But really just want to be there and stay alive to the finish and try and get as many points as I can. But yep, if it all goes badly, I guess that puts some pressure on for Martinsville. But I'll try to do the best I can, and hopefully it doesn't come to that.
Yeah, hoping that the proverbial golden horseshoe hasn't been fully worn out here at this race here in the Xfinity Series tonight. But Andrew will, actually morning in your case, and Howie's case as well, being the sick individual that that Howie is doing this broadcast. What was it, like 4 o'clock in the morning now for you, Howie?
3:30. Yeah.
3:30. May God have mercy on your soul. But Andrew, we'll let you give any thanks or shout outs before we let you go and celebrate tonight's win.
And just thanks everyone for coming out for a race. Thanks everyone who puts on these little broadcasts. We can watch it back and have a laugh, have a bit of a smile about some cool finishes. Although there's probably a lot of guys out there tonight who had a bit of a heartbreaking finish. So we'll shout out to those guys as well. And thanks to everyone who puts on the league and has, I think over probably less than 24 months, it's turned into something really cool. There's a lot of people want to get involved and there's a lot of really good racing and a lot of really competitive and fast people. So it's awesome to be a part of. Love it.
Yeah, super pleased to be a part of it myself here, commentating this series throughout 2025 on Maconi Entertainment. But Andrew, thank you for joining us in the booth. Congratulations on the win, and looking forward to seeing you out there over on the FLCC side of things throughout the rest of the season.
I'm looking forward to it. And I forgot one more thing. Dirty South 1-2 tonight with Jim Schofield. Let's go, boys.
Yeah, we're going to be having a chat with him in a couple of moments. Pretty darn good drive from him in that number 47 car. But Andrew, well done on the win, and looking forward to seeing you out there on the racetrack soon.
You will, man. Thanks. See you, boys.
And that right there was Andrew Dyson, your race winner here tonight. And Howie, I think we have the opportunity to have a chat with a man that that man just mentioned a few moments ago, our P2 finisher of Jim Schofield, joining us here in the broadcast booth after a pretty darn good finish from him here tonight.
Jim, a driver I did not mention for the entire race, other than maybe one contact, until suddenly the big one gives you a big one. How was your race?
It was pretty good. Just kind of hanging out in stage one, just riding out, got some damage, and just figured I'd save fuel, stay near the back, and everything kind of opened up at the end.
That final wreck was a bit of madness from the playoff drivers looking to try and secure their position. You're able to sneak one in right behind Andrew Dyson for it. So when the opportunity opens up, is it just about pedal to the metal and hoping it works?
I definitely wasn't lifting. Saw the middle open up, so I figured I'd jump to the middle, figure I might get a top 5, and then everyone started wrecking. I was looking at my relative to see Lucas next to me, and then all of a sudden Dyson just came out of nowhere. But I'll definitely take a Dirty South 1 and 2.
And Martinsville on the way. You're there for the fun, but is anyone really going to have fun on the track?
Well, probably not, but you never know with Martinsville. I mean, usually we're a pretty clean group of guys, so hopefully we can all hold it together.
Ever thank yous or shout outs after I've been told the Dyson 1-2 finish is a big deal to you two?
Oh, for sure. He jumps down here every once in a while, usually for the road courses, so definitely thanks to him for coming out and having a good showing for Dirty South. I'd like to shout out my dad, who usually watches the races.
Good to speak to you, and just certainly enjoy that finish in a whole field of chaos. That's P2 for Jim Schofield. I think it's Schofield. Which one is this? But I think it's Schofield. Which one is it?
It's Schofield.
You see?
Pronouncing it wrong all season, Jim. I am so sorry.
You're good. No worries, man.
I have been wrong for the past 7, 8 months.
I'll leave you with a playoff driver that has some stakes today, although he actually is going to come out and join the finish out of all things.
Yeah, I think of all the playoff racers, he's probably the one that's the least ticked off with that finish. Lucas Hoitzman joining us here in the broadcast booth. Lucas, welcome in. P3 for you at the end of this race, 0.03 of a second off of that win. How was it out here at Talladega tonight?
Oh, man. Started the race back in the weeds. Wasn't able to make it for qualifying, so it was tough. It was really hard to move up through the field tonight, especially at the start when everybody was just riding. So luckily, I was able to pull some pit strategy, get some track position, and held on to that. Won stage 2 and continued to stay up front toward the end. And I was really hoping we'd only go for 1 green, white checker because I didn't have enough fuel for 2. So glad we went green there. Glad we waited to wreck until the white flag. And I don't know how I wasn't in the grandstands after those 2 wrecks, because first time I got turned off the 71's nose and down into the 73, he saved me from wrecking. So thanks to Joseph. And then he gets turned by the 87. He comes back up into me. Somehow I still don't wreck there. I think he didn't either. And then that Australian out of nowhere on the top side. I go down to hit 47 to slow him down. I didn't even see Dyson coming, and he drives right around us both. So I'm sorry to Jim for that. He probably would have won the race if I didn't hit him, but that was desperation. I really wanted to not have to worry about Martinsville.
Yeah, I think as much as you haven't been able to lock yourself in with the win, I think still looking all right when it comes to the points situation. Not fully sure how it will be, but considering that you entered this race with was it about 11 points above that cutoff line and having a pretty good points haul here tonight, must have an all right cushion as we head off into to Martinsville. So that's got to be at least some tension taken off of your plate.
Yeah, oh, for sure. It's definitely better than wrecking tonight and being backed against the wall. I'll totally take a second and a third in this round of the playoffs. It's can't do much better than that other than a win. So I will definitely take it. But going into a place like Martinsville, it's really scary to be anywhere close to missing out on the playoffs. So gonna keep that in my mind, but just gonna maybe play it safe next week. I don't know, but just got to thank everybody over at RHM. Got to thank you guys for broadcasting, everybody over at Low Drag, and my family for watching. Appreciate everybody.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to ask you if you had anybody you wanted to go thanks to or shout out, but I already got it out before I could even ask you. Maybe you read my mind. We'll just have to wait and see if you can read your competitors' minds next time out at Martinsville. Lucas, thank you for joining us in the booth. Congratulations on the P3, and looking forward to seeing you try and muscle your way into the championship for next time at Martinsville.
Thanks, guys. See you.
And that right there was Lucas Hoitzma, our P3 finisher at the end of tonight's race. Well, Howie, we were expecting some drama at Talladega. We most certainly got, and that finish at the end is probably going to stunt my vocal cords for the rest of my life.
Oh, just another Ron Marnes Super Speedway finish. I mean, it seems like you've just can't escape the carnage on the track. Let me put it like that. Definitely a wild, wild day, and one that sometimes proves me wrong about this track and proves me that it can be a lot of fun from start to end. And next week, we are strapped in about as tight as the drivers from Martinsville, where cars go to die, even at less than 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, so Martinsville next week going to be absolute pure unbridled madness. So you want to tune into that broadcast because that's going to be a heck of a lot of fun as we set up the championship for right towards the end of the 2025 Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series season here on Maconi Entertainment. Have a lot of actions to look forward to in the days that lie ahead. Palmetto Racing League running at Talladega tomorrow with the trucks. Full-length Cup Challenge running at Talladega with the Cup Cars. Shocker, I know. And the Door-to-Door Sim Racing League also going to be running at Talladega, although it would be interesting to see the FF1600 Monday Strength of Field broadcast be at Talladega, maybe be a little bit more clean than Bathurst last week. Road Atlanta going to play the host of the 6th week of that season, so you can tune into that action here on Maconi Entertainment and be informed of it all by hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. But after this broadcast here tonight for the 31st race of the 2025 Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series here at Talladega, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Mullins, and Howie Burrows working the comms and the cams with me on tonight's show, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Maconi Entertainment tonight, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.